The great hall of Valruan buzzed with the restless energy of warriors gathered from across the galaxy, each representing one of the 11 proud species of the Coalition. The chamber was vast, carved from shimmering crystal stone that glowed faintly under the light of twin suns outside. High above, banners fluttered, each bearing the insignia of a different race, symbols of strength and victory displayed like trophies. The air was thick with the sound of laughter and loud voices, the kind that only true warriors dared to make in the presence of their peers. Tonight was a special gathering, a tradition passed down through generations where stories of conquest and battle were shared, but also, just as importantly, where the warriors mocked the myths of weaker. The crowd thrived on it. Tonight's target was humanity, a species still young in the grand scope of the stars, but already the subject of many jokes and whispers. The human myths were ridiculous to the Coalition warriors, tales of gods who could control thunder, monsters who rose from the deep, and immortals who could be reborn from ashes. Lieutenant Silak of the Krateth was the loudest of them all, his booming voice echoing through the hall as he described humans as nothing more than naive storytellers clinging to childish fables because they had no real power. "Do you believe in such nonsense?" he scoffed, shaking his clawed head, eyes gleaming with amusement. "Their so-called heroes are just men chasing shadows." The room erupted in laughter, warriors slapping each other on the back, their amusement filling the cavernous space like thunder. But among the raucous crowd, one figure sat still, his large, armored frame barely moving as he listened. Commander Threx, the Coalition's undefeated champion and a warrior feared across star systems, showed no sign of joining the laughter. His deep-set eyes looked thoughtful, almost somber, as though the stories of human myths had stirred something deeper within him. His reputation was earned on the battlefield when no one had ever bested him, yet tonight he was silent, absorbing the mockery around him. When the laughter finally died down, Selek, curious and a little annoyed by Threx's quietness, leaned in and asked, "Commander, why don't you laugh with us? Don't you find their myths amusing like the rest?" The hall fell quiet, attention turning to Threx as he slowly rose to his full height, his voice calm but carrying weight that silenced even the loudest voices. "Because I have seen these myths come alive," he said simply. "I have faced them in battle." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Many scoffed at the claim, but no one dared interrupt. Threx's gaze swept across the chamber, locking eyes with Silak. "If you want to understand humans, you must survive them," he said. "I did. Barely." The room grew tense, curiosity replacing laughter. "Tell us, then," Salak challenged. "Tell us how you survived against what should have been only stories." Thrax's lips curled into a faint, serious smile. "Very well," he said, stepping forward as the chamber darkened, the only light now coming from the glowing banners. "Listen well, because this is a tale you will not soon forget." And with that, he began to recount the story of the strange world called HFY, where myths were not just tales, but weapons, where humans transformed their legends into tools of war, and where the truth about humanity's strength would change the Coalition's view forever. The warriors leaned in closer, their amusement replaced with a growing sense of unease, as the hall that had once echoed with laughter became the stage for a story of survival, cunning, and a myth that was more than just a myth. The planet HFY. I was nothing special to most, just a small, rocky world on the edge of the Coalition's mapped space, valuable only for its rich mineral deposits and weak defenses. The humans had arrived there only a decade ago, setting up a settlement on the planet's cracked surface. It was supposed to be easy to claim, a simple task for the might of the coalition. When the first scouting team sent by the Valruan came to investigate the human settlement, they found it strangely quiet. No signs of battle, no bodies, no damage, just empty buildings standing in eerie silence beneath a pale pink sky. The team reported back confidently, no resistance. Humans fled or hid. We can take the planet with little effort. But when a small squad led by Lieutenant Selleck returned to survey the area, they vanished without a trace. No distress signals, no remains, nothing. The silence that followed was strange, unsettling. The coalition commanders decided to send their best warrior, Commander Threx, with a larger force, expecting a quick cleanup. When Threx and his troops landed, they found the settlement abandoned, but the silence felt alive. The air was thick with tension. As the warriors advanced, the terrain around the settlement revealed hidden traps, not made with crude alien devices, but with clever mechanisms, blending ancient human design and advanced technology. Barbed wires, blended with energy fields, pits hidden beneath holographic illusions, and strange patterns in the sand that triggered hidden weapons. But the most terrifying part was what came next. From the shadows, a figure appeared, standing tall and silent. His armor was old-fashioned, but made from unknown alloys that shimmered faintly under the twin suns. His eyes held a calm and strange power that unsettled even the hardest warriors. He called himself Aeson, a name from ancient Earth legends, a hero from stories passed down over thousands of years. Aeson didn't shout or make threats. Instead, he fought with a calm precision that seemed almost supernatural. He moved faster than any creature in the Coalition's history, dodging attacks and countering with deadly efficiency. Each time the Coalition soldiers thought they had him trapped, he vanished only to reappear where they least expected. Then came the most disturbing moment. Aeson seemed to summon creatures from human myths to fight alongside him. Not alive, but mechanical drones built in the image of mythical beasts. A Hydra-shaped drone repaired itself instantly after damage, forcing soldiers to fight multiple times harder. Labyrinth-like defense systems shifted and reconfigured themselves in real time, confusing the invaders. A drone shaped like a phoenix soared overhead, trailing flames that burned with intense energy but left no lasting damage, a cruel trick to distract and terrify. Every tactic the Coalition tried was met with a new legend brought to life, each one better than the last. It was as if the myths were not just stories, but real tools, designed to protect and confuse anyone who dared attack. Threx realized then that these were no simple human defenses. They were a strategy built on the power of belief, imagination, and fear. Every soldier in his unit began to feel the weight of those ancient stories pressing down on their minds. They had always believed myths were just tales told to entertain or teach lessons, but here, myths were weapons carefully crafted and deadly. Yet, despite overwhelming odds, Aeson never sought to destroy without reason. He fought to delay, to warn, and to survive. Threx found himself fascinated by the humans' calm courage and clever use of ancient stories mixed with technology. As the battle dragged on, Threx's soldiers grew exhausted and frustrated. Their machines and weapons, so effective against other species, failed to work against defenses that seemed to anticipate every move. The canyon where the humans retreated became a maze of illusions and traps, a living puzzle that kept shifting. Communication systems broke down as strange signals jammed frequencies, causing confusion and panic. Threx watched as the soldiers around him lost faith, some whispering of retreat, others in anger and disbelief. But Azen remained relentless, appearing as if from nowhere to strike with precision, then disappearing again like a ghost. Threx's respect for the human grew, mixed with a fear he had never known before. The myths were more than stories, they were a code. A plan written into every battle move, every trap set, every strange machine built. Threx realized that the humans had taken their myths seriously, believed in them so deeply that they became real in their minds and in their world. It was not magic or luck, but the power of belief turned into action. After days of fighting, Threx barely escaped with his life, his forces shattered and broken. He left HFY with a warning. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Their myths, once laughed at, were alive and powerful. As he told this to the assembled warriors in the hall of Valruan, a hush fell over the crowd. The laughter was gone, replaced by a cold, growing respect and fear. For the first time, the alien warriors faced the uncomfortable truth. Human myths were not simple stories, but living legends that could change the fate of worlds. The story of HFY marked the beginning of a new era, one where myths became weapons, heroes walked among enemies, and humanity showed the galaxy a new kind of strength, one born not just of power, but of unbreakable spirit and imagination. The cold winds of the canyon where the last stand was made whispered through jagged rocks as Commander Threx prepared for what he believed would be the final strike against the stubborn humans who refused to surrender. The Coalition's ships hovered above, ready to unleash destruction with orbital lasers capable of turning mountains into dust. But something in the air made even the most battle-hardened soldiers uneasy. The humans had retreated deeper into the maze of their own making, a labyrinth of ancient traps mixed with modern technology, and every attempt to breach their defenses had ended in failure, confusion, and loss. As the orbital strikes began, a lone figure emerged from the shadows, Azen, the human hero, stepping into the center of the battlefield, with no weapons raised, only a calm determination in his eyes that unsettled everyone who saw him. His armor, scarred and worn, gleamed faintly under the red light of explosions, and his voice carried clearly through the translator drone, reaching every soldier and commander alike. "You think our myths are just stories to mock or forget," he said, his tone steady and strong, "but they are the soul of our strength, the will to survive when all odds are against us. This is what we call HFY, humanity. F, yeah, not pride, rage, but the fire inside that keeps us moving forward." The phrase struck the Coalition forces like a thunderclap, a reminder that humanity's fight was not just physical, but deeply spiritual and mental, built on a legacy of hope and defiance. Then, without a sound, Azen activated a device on his wrist that sent a signal high into the skies, triggering a network of satellites hidden in Earth's orbit. The sky above the battlefield suddenly shifted, filled with massive holographic projections of creatures and heroes from Earth's myths: the dragon with flaming breath, titans wielding great clubs, angels with shining swords, and these were not just images, but complex technological constructs designed to confuse, scare, and disrupt enemy sensors and communications. The Coalition's warships struggled to distinguish reality from illusion as their targeting systems faltered, and on the ground, Soldiers were paralyzed by the sudden appearance of seemingly unstoppable forces straight out of legend. The battle became chaotic as drones shaped like mythical beasts swooped down, releasing bursts of energy that temporarily disabled weapons and sensors, while labyrinth walls shifted and changed shape to trap and mislead attackers. Thrax watched in disbelief as his best strategies failed, and the calm, silent human who stood before him wielded legends as weapons, turning ancient stories into tools of war. Aeson spoke again, not with anger or hatred, but with quiet resolve. This is our truth. We make our myths real, not by magic, but by believing in them, by using every part of our history and spirit to survive. You may have strength and technology, but we have something else, a will that refuses to break. The words echoed through the canyon, reaching every ear and stirring something deep inside the hearts of the coalition soldiers, many of whom began to question the meaning of their conquest. The human hero moved among his people with grace and strength, leading his small band in attacks that were precise and brutal, never careless, always calculated to protect and prolong the fight. As the orbital strikes ceased due to system failures caused by the myth-triggered technology, Thrax found himself face-to-face with Aeson in a narrow pass, weapons drawn but unspoken respect between them. The air was thick with tension and understanding as Aeson spoke once more. I fight for my people, for my world, and for the stories that make us who we are. If you want to conquer humanity, you must understand what it means to believe in yourself and your legends. Thrax, weary and humbled, lowered his weapon slightly, feeling for the first time that victory over these humans would require more than just force. It would demand an understanding of something far deeper. As the battle ended with Thrax's retreat, the hero's words stayed with him, burning like a new kind of fire. He realized that the coalition had underestimated humanity, not just as fighters, but as beings who had turned their myths into living shields, a strength no weapon could break. The story of Aeson, the hero who said HFY, spread quickly among the alien warriors, changing the way they thought about humans forever, and planting the seed of a new respect mixed with fear, a feeling that the age of myths had returned, not as fables, but as powerful forces shaping the future of the galaxy. The great hall of Valruan had never been so silent. The usual laughter and chatter that filled the chamber were replaced by a heavy stillness, a growing unease that settled deep into the hearts of the coalition's greatest warriors as Commander Thrax's words echoed in their minds. No longer were human myths mere tales to mock or dismiss. They were becoming undeniable forces, mysteries that moved, shapes that defied logic, and ideas that fought back. Thrax stood before the assembly, his once proud posture now marked by a weight that only true experience could bring, and he told of the strange things that had begun to happen after the battle on Eos VII. The outposts near human space were no longer safe. Reports flooded in of shadows that slipped through walls, structures that grew and changed form as if alive, and strange phenomena that disrupted even the most advanced sensors of the coalition. At first, commanders assumed these were simple tricks or failures in the systems, but when soldiers began to vanish without trace and entire communication networks went dark, fear began to replace confidence. Strange creatures appeared in the dead of night, neither fully machine nor alive, echoes of human myths given form through technology far beyond what the aliens understood. These were not just defense mechanisms. They were warnings, messages encoded in shapes of dragons, titans, and mythical beasts that seemed to test the limits of reason itself. As the coalition scrambled to respond, they discovered that Earth was exporting these myths like weapons, disguising advanced war machines as legends. Intelligence officers found transmissions filled with ancient Earth stories, but these were not mere entertainment, they were tactical commands that triggered hidden devices and traps across the frontier. When questioned, some humans simply said, "This is how we fight." With stories, with belief, with our history made real. The coalition's leaders dismissed it at first, calling it propaganda, a psychological game meant to confuse and scare. But as more reports came in, it became clear that the truth was far stranger. The myths awakened something in the minds of those who faced them. Fear twisted into hesitation, hesitation into mistakes, and mistakes into defeat. It was as if the stories shaped reality itself, breaking down the steel nerves of even the most seasoned warriors. Threx shared his own chilling experience, how he had been sent back to the front lines to investigate a sudden failure of a key outpost and had found an entire unit trapped inside a labyrinth that seemed alive. Walls shifted without warning, corridors led to nowhere, and ghostly figures whispered warnings that made soldiers question their senses. He narrowly escaped by following a faint human chant that guided him through the maze. The story sent shivers through the hall. The warriors asked, "How can stories become real? How can belief create weapons?" Threx answered, "It is not magic. It is the will of humanity made visible. They have learned to use their myths as strategy, to make their enemies afraid not just of what humans can do, but what they believe they can do." Among the crowd, some warriors shook their heads in disbelief. Others swallowed hard, realizing that a new kind of war was unfolding, one that went beyond guns and ships into the very minds and spirits of those who fought. Then a message arrived from the coalition's intelligence network, bringing news that further deepened the mystery. Entire fleets reported strange anomalies near human spaceships that appeared and disappeared, weather systems that shifted in impossible patterns, and structures that looked like they belonged to ancient legends rising from nowhere. Attempts to scan or attack these phenomena failed repeatedly, with the attacks falling apart as if the universe itself was bending to the will of the humans. Threx told the council that this was only the beginning. The myths were awakening the galaxy, not through force, but through the power of imagination and belief transformed into reality. The human world had become a legend-turned living fortress, and those who entered it were changed by the experience. Some warriors in the hall whispered fears of the unknown, while others quietly admired the cleverness and strength of humanity's unique defense. Threx's final words left a lasting mark on every listener. "We thought we were the hunters, but now we are being hunted not by soldiers, but by stories. And if we do not learn to fight myths, we will fall to them." As the council disbanded that night, the shadows in the hall seemed deeper, and the once confident warriors walked away with a new understanding that the legends humans carried were not dead tales, but living forces, shaping the future of war and survival in ways no one had imagined. Outside, the stars seemed to shine differently, as if the galaxy itself was watching, waiting to see how this new battle of myths would unfold, and whether humanity's faith in its stories would be its greatest weapon or its final challenge. The galaxy was no longer the same after the battle at HFY and the rise of the human myths. News of Earth and its strange warriors spread like wildfire through the stars, carried by survivors, traders, and spies alike. The Coalition, once the unstoppable force of the known universe, found itself facing a new kind of challenge, not just armies or weapons, but stories and legends turned real, shaping the way battles were fought and won. Planets that once bowed easily now resisted with cunning strategies, rooted in human history and imagination, where technology met faith and old tales became blueprints for survival. Commander Threx, now a living legend among the Coalition, traveled from world to world, speaking in war councils and training halls about the truth of humanity's strength. He told how myths could awaken the spirit, create fear in the hearts of the enemy, and inspire warriors to stand when all seemed lost. But the humans did not fight like others. They did not rely solely on force or fear, but on hope, on the belief that even the smallest person could change the fate of many. As more Coalition forces encountered human colonies scattered across the stars, the legends grew. Stories of the Phoenix Squad, fighters who seemed to rise again after every defeat. Tales of the Dragon's Breath, a weapon so feared it could stop entire fleets, and whispers of the Eternal Guardian, a human whose courage never faltered, no matter the odds. These stories became symbols, not only of fear for enemies, but of pride and unity for humans themselves. Across human space, ancient rituals were revived and transformed into new ways of war. Songs that once told of heroes long gone were sung by soldiers before battle, giving them strength and courage. Statues of mythical figures were placed in command centers as reminders that their fight was part of a larger story, a story written not by power alone, but by the will to endure and overcome. The Coalition's greatest minds tried to understand how human belief could be weaponized so effectively. Scientists studied human psychology and culture, trying to replicate the power of myth, but they could not capture the heart behind it. What made humanity dangerous was not just technology or strategy, but a deep, unbreakable spirit born from centuries of struggle and hope. On the frontline worlds, the fighting became a dance of shadow and light, where technology clashed with imagination. Battles were not won by sheer force, but by understanding the myths, learning to face fear with courage, and turning legends into reality. Human heroes like Azon became symbols across the galaxy, their names spoken with a mixture of awe and respect. And then came the moment when a new alliance was proposed, a meeting of minds and warriors from both humans and Coalition members, who saw the future not in conquest, but in cooperation. Threx himself stood beside human leaders on the neutral planet of Arcana, where discussions began about a new galactic order. It was a time of uncertainty and hope, for the myths that had once divided now held the power to unite. Yet, as the talks continued, darker forces stirred beyond the known space, ancient enemies who watched from the shadows, waiting for the galaxy to weaken in its change. These threats knew nothing of myths or belief. Their power was raw, brutal, and without mercy. The age of human myth was not only a time of strength, but also a test, a challenge to see if stories could stand against the cold force of darkness. The final battle had not yet come, but every warrior knew it was near. The legends whispered among humans and aliens alike carried a warning and a promise that in this new age, courage, hope, and belief would be as deadly as any weapon, and only those who embraced the power of myth could hope to survive. As the twin suns set on the horizon of Arcana, casting long shadows over the assembled leaders. Commander Threx looked to the stars and spoke softly. "This is our future, where myths live and heroes rise. We are no longer just soldiers of war, but keepers of legends. And in these legends lies our greatest strength." The galaxy held its breath, ready to step into the unknown, guided by the timeless force of human myth, an age where stories were no longer just words, but the very essence of survival and victory.